All right, I will call to order the Common Council meeting on April 26th at 7:31. First up is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alder Allen is delayed. Alder Radafrada. You see there?
Here.
Thank you. Alder Gerhard.
Here.
Alder Herbst.
Here.
Alder Maldonado.
Here.
Mayor Richardson.
Here.
Alder Strassman.
Here.
Alder Udell.
Here.
Alder Wheeler.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
All right, thank you. First up is public appearances, non-agenda items, new appointments, proclamations, all kinds of things here. First, we'll do the Mayoral Proclamation for Earth Day. And we are recognizing April 29th, 2022 as the official Fitchburg Arbor Day and Earth Day celebration. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day called Arbor Day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas the holiday called Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas each year on the last Friday in April, people throughout Wisconsin and across the country celebrate Arbor Day by paying a special attention to the wonderful treasure that trees represent, and by dedicating themselves to the continued health of our urban and rural forests. And whereas every tree planted, nurtured, or maintained by past generations, enjoyed by citizens today, bears witness to the foresight of our predecessors, men and women who were inspired by the notion of a future blessed with trees. And whereas in December of 1998, Fitchburg City Council acknowledged the importance of trees by resolving to develop a community tree management program with the goal of achieving Tree City USA status, and applying for grants to help plant and maintain trees in the city. And whereas trees can reduce runoff, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, calm traffic, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and whereas Fitchburg has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 24 consecutive years, has earned 11 growth awards, and desires to continue its tree planting ways. And whereas in 1970, Senator Gaylord Nelson of Wisconsin suggested in a speech that a one-day demonstration be held to show concern for the environment, April 22nd, 1970 was designated the original Earth Day. And whereas in recognition of Earth Day, April 29th, 2022, it is desirable to undertake efforts to clean up our community's roadsides and parks. And whereas planting trees by Fitchburg citizens represents a commitment to our community, environment, urban forestry, and aesthetic beauty. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the City of Fitchburg that April 29th, 2022 is officially known as Fitchburg Arbor Day and Earth Day celebration. Now therefore be it further proclaimed by the City of Fitchburg that all citizens are urged to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and to support our city's urban forestry program. That all citizens are urged to plant trees to promote the well-being of present and future generations so that future generations can continue to enjoy a green and healthy community and to look back upon the foresight and dedication of their predecessors with pride and with gratitude, and to join with others across our state and nation in celebrating the nobility of trees. Proclaim this 26th day of April, 2022. All right. Next up is some mayoral appointments for new appointments. We've got a number of them here. First up is Paul. Paul, you want to come on up and just maybe tell us just a couple of minutes why you're interested in serving on the Commission on Aging Well?
Sure. Thank you very much. First of all, I'm 67, so I am interested in aging well. But a lot of it has to do with my relationship with my mother. I served 3 terms as board of directors for the Alzheimer's and Dementia Alliance of Wisconsin. My mother had dementia. My mother lived in Fitchburg for 7 years before she passed away and was able to take advantage of a lot of the services here in Fitchburg, including Meals on Wheels, of which I am a volunteer driver. So those things are very important to me, and I wish those services and benefits to continue for our elderly population. And I look forward to being part of that discussion.
All right, any questions at all? Dave?
I just want to say thank you I'm the alder on the committee, and thank you so much for volunteering to support this worthy endeavor.
Thank you, Dave.
Would you like to make a motion, Dave?
Approval of Paul, is it Pitus or?
Pittis.
Pittis for Commission on Aging Well.
Second.
Seconded by Gabriella. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that's approved. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Renee Eastman. Come on up, and this is for the library board.
Good evening. I'm Renee Eastman. I've lived in Fitchburg for almost 15 years now. I am an accountant by trade, and I attended law school at the University of Wisconsin. I'm currently the Vice President of Financial and Regulatory Services for Leading Age Wisconsin, which is a association of mission-driven long-term care providers. And more importantly, I have 3 children. They are 5, 3, and 6 months, and we regularly go to the Fitchburg Public Library. I'm also the treasurer of the Madison Curling Club. So I don't have a lot of free time on my hands, but I would like to, again, be involved and continue civil service, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right, any questions at all? Or a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
All right,
Second.
motion by Shannon, seconded by Randy. All in favor of approving Renee, say aye.
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 Thank you.
And opposed, nay. All right, thank you. No one's opposed. All right, Sean Baxter. This is for Police and Fire Commission.
So the mayor told me I had half an hour, but if a couple minutes is all, I'll try and be brief. Good evening. My name's Sean Baxter. Born and raised in Fitchburg. Amanda and I are raising the 7th generation of our family on Irish Lane, just south of here. My great-great-grandfather's hanging on the wall down the hall. He was town chair in the 20s and 30s. My grandfather was town treasurer. All that is to say that I have a very vested interest in Fitchburg and very interested in seeing the city continue to be great. And so for me, the foundation of that great city is the safety and security that the government provides and that the citizens can feel in Fitchburg. I think they've done a great job of that, and so I'm looking forward to participating in police and fire. I am a business owner, employ over 400 people throughout the state of Wisconsin. I've hired hundreds of people, not all great, but most of them really great people. I've only fired 3, so I have some experience that way. I've written playbooks and handbooks and policies and procedures, so I think my experience, I'm excited to bring that experience to the Police and Fire Commission and its limited service to the city, and I thank you for the opportunity, Mayor, and I'm looking forward to.
All right, thank you. Any questions at all? Or a motion?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Randy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Next up is Amy Johanny, also for Police and Fire Commission. We had one of our members have moved. They sold their house, and so that's why we have 2 openings.
Hi, I'm Amy Johanny. Thank you for having me. I'm a 4th generation Fitchburg resident, and my great-grandmother was the clerk for Fitchburg, and my grandfather served on the Police and Fire Commission and the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee, which is the reason that I'm here tonight, because I am also a member of the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee. I'm beginning my 2nd term, and now I'm joining the Police and Fire Commission, which I'm very excited about. A little bit about me. I'm a graduate of University of Wisconsin-Madison. I did my undergraduate and my graduate school there. I'm a home health care administrator for my job, so I do all aspects. I run the company, so the hiring and unfortunately the firing, which doesn't happen often either, but basically anything from payroll to meeting a new patient and their family for the very first time. So I have a lot of experience running a business, healthcare business. I take a special interest in the Police and Fire Commission because my husband is starting his 11th year as a Wisconsin State Trooper. He's sitting back there. So, and we live in Fitchburg, and rural Fitchburg, of course. Our place is on a portion of our family farm, so we were lucky to be able to build out there, and we're still farming out there. Several acres. We're raising hay and crops. So that's just a little bit about me, and I'm really excited for the opportunity. I'm very grateful to be able to follow in my grandfather's footsteps, because that was a goal of mine, and to continue to serve a city that's really important to me. And I do hold our first responders with the highest regard, and I recognize how essential they are to our city, and it's so important that we have a really good group of first responders. So I'm excited to be able to jump in and roll.
All right. Any questions for Amy?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Moved by Shannon,
Second.
seconded by Jim. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, that's approved. Thank you, Amy. And one more, Micah, for Transportation Transit. Come on up.
Hi, that's following a couple impressive people there. Hey.
How many generations have you benefited?
So I moved here in 2018. I've lived in the area for over 20 years. I went to school here, UW-Madison. So we moved here, 2018 with me and my wife and my daughter, who's now a kindergartner in Verona School District. So I applied for transportation. I think with how geographically diverse the city is, I think it's how people move around the city is really important to kind of the culture and the experience that people have here. And so I think it would be really interesting to get involved. And I just want to kind of give back more to the city. So yeah, this would be my first commission, so I'm looking forward to just learning from the people that are already on the commission, and hopefully I can contribute to its success. So I thank you for the nomination and look forward to serving.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Moved by Gabriella, seconded by, I'll get that one to Joe. He's on delay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay? All right, thank you, Micah.
Thank you.
All right, and then I do have one person to speak on an agenda item. We're done with mayoral appointments. Just a reminder for people who are from the community that you have 3 minutes, and you have Steve Arnold for this right now. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, I would like to speak to 2 items on your consent agenda that are being referred out. I'm speaking now because they're not really up for discussion. Last year, the city did a water project that resulted in the rebuilding of South Cyene Road, a portion of it, and had previously had repaved Irish Lane. And both of these projects resulted in rural roads that were resurfaced without paved shoulders. This was a missed opportunity. It's important to Bike Fitchburg that paved shoulders be considered when rural roads are resurfaced or reconstructed. So what has been happening in the city is that many projects percolate up through a public works or planning silo and do not go to transportation or the bicycle committee for the perspectives of those important users of these facilities. So tonight I'm asking you to consider referring Resolution R8722 and R8822, the resurfacing of Purcell Road and the resurfacing of Grandview and Vroman Road, respectively, to the transportation and/or bicycle committees, so that they can be considered by people who bike. The key words in the contract for the engineering firms are that they should be reconstructed to a typical rural section. And Bike Fitchburg believes that a typical rural section for reconstructed roads should improve paved shoulders. Not only does it make the road safer for bicyclists and motorists, but it also makes the road last longer. So if you would please refer those to one of those 2 committees or commissions, we would very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's all I've got for non-agenda items. We can go on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Jay.
Second.
Second by Gabriella. And anything that people want to separate out? Yeah, Julia, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to separate 5 and 6.
5 and 6, all right. Anything else? Seeing nothing else, then all in favor of approving everything except 5 and 6, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, those are approved. And go ahead, Julia, on number 5.
Yes, I would like to refer out to the bike committee.
Second.
All right, seconded by Jay. Do we know, Chad, what the meeting schedule is for bike committee?
I was just going to look that up, and I know that both of these projects are actually contingent upon grant funding being received, and we don't anticipate hearing back from the funding organization or agency until mid-May, so there may not be much of an issue on the timing there.
Great. All right. Any other concerns at all? All right. Then all in favor of approving with adding bike committee, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that's approved. And then next one, Julia.
Next one, I would also like to refer out to the bike committee.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Sent by Randy. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. All in favor of approving by adding bike committee, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. All right, that is also approved. Administrator's report.
Good evening, everyone. I've got a rather short administrator's report with really just a few events that are upcoming and one road construction project update. For those of you that travel in the vicinity of County Highway M and McCoy Road, you're going to start seeing some road construction there beginning rather soon. Traffic signal installation and a reconfiguration of the Capital City Bike Trail crossing is going to be taking place this summer. And transitioning to some upcoming events, there is a kickoff to the pickleball season coming up at McGaw Park this Thursday evening at 5:30 p.m. And also on Thursday evening, our first Town of Madison public information meeting will be taking place. That will be Thursday at 6:30 p.m. and that meeting is being held at the Courts Administration Building on Novation Parkway in the Town of Madison. And the last item, city staff has recently confirmed another Town of Madison informational event. That is going to be a business-oriented event co-hosted in conjunction with the Fitchburg Chamber of Commerce. That is scheduled for May 23rd. I think I wrote down the wrong day. My apologies. I got to double check my calendar. It is May 23rd at 4 p.m., and that is going to be at the Delta Beer Lab. That's all I have.
All right, any questions for Chad? Seeing none, we can go to Plan Commission. Randy.
Okay, thank you. Motion to approve Resolution R-89-22, approving Comprehensive Development Plan Request, CDP-2441-22, by Brian Tokowski, agent for Thermo Fisher Scientific, to allow for industrial, office research, and manufacturing development on property to the east of Spoke Drive and north of McKee Road.
Second.
Sent by Jay. And did Planning Commission approve?
Planning Commission approved, yes.
And what is this about?
Let's see, back to my notes. Thermo Fisher is requesting approval of a CDP. The CDP would allow for the creation of 2 lots, and one of the proposed lots at Spoke and McKee would be for office and industrial and commercial use, and then the remaining lot would be retained by Thermo Fisher for future development of their facilities.
So essentially, there's a lot along McKee Road that they're breaking off to sell to someone else.
Correct.
We think they have someone that wants to buy it, but they haven't told me who it is. So, any questions at all? All right, Julia, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. I am looking at the map. The section that is going to be split to commercial is is the section with all the trees. And so they are expecting to clear the area before they put it on sale, or what is the plan for that?
They have not said. I
No?
think it's up
Okay.
to whoever buys it.
And do you know exactly, do they have someone in mind to do this? This is going to be an office building?
Nope, like I just mentioned, that we think that they have someone that wants to buy it, but they have not told us who that is. All right, seeing nothing else, all in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay? All right, that is approved. Next one.
All right, motion to approve Resolution R-90-22, approving comprehensive development plan request, CDP-2446-22, by Jonathan Stevens, agent for Sarah Investment Real Estate, to allow for office, laboratory, medical, technology, logistics, multifamily housing, and retail development on property located south of Haight Farm Road in the vicinity of Blaney Road.
Sent by Jade. Plan Commission approve?
Approved, yes.
All right, we've got Brian Munson here representing Sarah Investments in Hollier Tongue to tell us a little bit more.
Well, thank you. I'll keep things fairly brief. What I'd like to do quickly is just share the plan up here on the screen so everybody can see what we are talking about. So thank you again, Brian Munson with Vanderwall and Associates here on behalf of Sarah Investment. I want to take a few minutes just to thank staff, the alders, the mayor, and the folks that we've been working very closely with to bring this through to the first stage. We're excited to be here tonight for the Comprehensive Development Plan, which is the first step of several. We will be having a neighborhood meeting next week, followed up by a rezoning submittal in the future to really help implement this. But this project is an offshoot of the adopted plans, and that's really where we started. And what you see on the screen here is exactly what's called for in the adopted McGaw neighborhood plan, which is a mix of employment opportunities coupled up with some supportive housing immediately adjacent, along with some mixed use. So we're very excited to be here tonight for the comprehensive development plan. And again, thank you to everyone that we've been working very closely with to get us here tonight. And we look forward to continuing partnering with the city to make it happen as we move forward.
All right, any questions at all? Jay?
Yeah, just a couple of things. It looks like you have a bunch of either single-family residential or some kind of townhouse arrangement.
Yes, the multifamily includes interior hallway apartments as well as some townhomes, a vertical townhome, so attached product. And that was done intentionally to offer both diversity of housing types, price points, and then transition amongst the different uses along that project. So yes, we do have some townhome components incorporated in here. They are all slated for apartments. We have approximately between 450 to 500 apartments planned for this site. And those will all come back, of course, for future zoning submittals to show architecture.
Yeah, the only comment I wanted to make on this is since this was intended to be a TOD focused on the rail line, I wonder if you can just flip that so the denser buildings are closer to the rail line.
We do anticipate, so the way the McGaw neighborhood plan is designed, the transit stop is actually identified to happen on the Hartung property.
Right.
To the south. And so we do anticipate street extensions and uses in the future when that property is redeveloped that would really facilitate a lot of that. Transitioning along this, we've got a bike path at the back, kind of a walking path connection for the greenway to come out there. So we kind of see that as an opportunity to kind of transition, integrate some different uses. We can take a look at the blend of those, and that'll all be coming back as part of the GIP submittals here in the future. But
yeah, that was going to be my other question is, since I know we had a transit station planned for this area, but it's not showing on this plan. Are you anticipating that further south?
Let me just pull up the McGaw neighborhood plan. So this is the plan itself. A couple of things have changed. Obviously, the road alignments are a little bit different because of what happened to the north, the placement of Lacey moved east, things like that. We do anticipate that transit station could still happen on the future redevelopment of the Hartung site. That is a property that's going to stay in place as it is a operating facility to date with a lot of lifespan left in it. But it does offer the opportunity that transit could be incorporated here. Additional street extensions and connections could be incorporated in there and is designed in the streets for that. but that the transit station would happen south of the residential piece that we're proposing in this kind of phase one development of the property.
So if the need for the transit station arises prior to development south of what you're currently submitting, is there space in your current, I mean, it's hard to tell because it looks like there's a bunch of trees right there. So, I mean, I don't know what the topography of that specific area is at all. So is there space there to put the transit station, or would it have to go further south into?
Potentially, yes, in that northwest corner of the Hartung property with some reconfiguration. There is a street, the dedicated street that's being shown here. It's not being extended until it would be needed, but we wanted to make sure there was a connection point possible there. So there is some room along this stretch to consider potentially integrating that if that became a possibility before the facility was, redeveloped. So, and this, of note, this greenway to the north will be dedicated space. So that will be something that the city would have, under their control, potentially to consider that as a future transit station.
All right. That was all I had.
All right. Randy?
I had a resident reach out to me just before this evening's meeting asking about Nobel Drive. And I'm just looking at Google Maps right now, and I remember in a previous conversation, Nobel would have, the plan is eventually to come through, but it would be through the Hartung property, correct, at a later date?
At a later date, yes.
Yeah.
This was the adopted plan, and it shows Nobel kind of exiting the southwest corner.
Right.
We have looked very closely at it. There's a lot of complications in the southwest corner between the Sayin Road, the railroad, and the existing wetlands.
Right.
But what this is designed to do with this roundabout terminus right here is allow the street to be extended in any angle and help free up that approach with a goal that, potentially could still continue to the southwest if that is indeed the desire of the community.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Julia, do you have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you. So my question is, the proposed multifamily and townhomes are going to be rental units or homeowners?
Those would be rental units, yes.
Right. Do you have an idea what is the ratio multifamily and townhomes?
Right now, the plan shows 450 apartments and 36 townhomes.
Okay, thank you.
And those are going to be further refined, of course, as we move forward. We have been working with the residential developer on that, John, who was here. We're excited to kind of work into that design process quickly to address some of those questions.
Anyone? Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, no, my next question is, are you planning to have a public meeting with the neighbors in that area?
Yes. We have a neighborhood meeting scheduled for next Wednesday.
Okay.
And mailers did go out with an assist from the city.
When is going to be the meeting?
Let me double check.
Next
make sure
Wednesday.
Sorry, next Thursday. My
Thursday,
apologies,
sorry,
yes.
next Thursday.
Let me get the right
I
date
know
and the
that-
right
We're
time.
getting it right now.
Where?
Hold on, he's pulling up the information.
Oh, okay.
So it is at 7 p.m. in the community center.
Okay, thank you.
Jay?
Yeah, we should probably post that as a potential quorum issue.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep.
All right, Gabrielle?
For the units you're developing, are they all 2-3 bedrooms? Do you have any sort of higher bedroom count units
We don't have a
planned?
mix at this point.
Okay.
That'll be coming as part of the next stage.
Do you ever consider kind of those higher bedroom, like 4-bedroom units? Is that something that is even under consideration?
At this point, we haven't gotten to that.
Okay. All right.
It's, again, something we can take under advisement and look at as we move forward.
All right, I do not see anything else. So I will go ahead and ask for all in favor to say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed, nay? All right, that's
All right.
approved.
Thank you.
All right, Randy, next one.
This one was postponed. Do I read through the entire?
Yes.
All right. Motion to postpone. Resolution R-91-22 approving certified map request CS-244-22 by Brian Beulah, agent for Payne and Dolan, to create 2 buildable lots. Lot 2 would allow General Beverage to develop a 63,000 square foot warehouse.
Second.
Seconded by Jay. And we postponed it just because we had some concerns about access and impact with.
That's correct. Yeah, Plan Commission postponed it. And we requested staff to work with Midwest Stone for a resolution regarding the driveway issue.
Any further questions? All right, all in favor of postponing, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. All right, as postponed. Next one.
Motion to approve ordinance 2022-0-15, zoning ordinance amendment, approving rezone request RZ-2442-22 by John V. Neer, agent for Patrick J. O'Brien, Thomas G. O'Brien, to rezone from the AX, which is exclusive agricultural zoning district, to P-R, Park and Recreation zoning district on property near the southwest corner of Lacey Road and Seminole Highway.
Second.
All right, seconded by Jay. And did Plan Commission approve?
Plan Commission approved, yes.
All right, and would you like to tell us what's going on?
Yeah, back in November, this body approved Edgewood's College request to amend the urban service area to include the proposed rezone site. Edgewood College intends to develop an athletic and wellness campus, and so the P-R zoning district is suitable for this type of recreational facility on privately owned lands.
All right, I've got a couple of citizens that would like to speak as well. And at least, Steve, this is one that you had put down. This is number 4. Is that incorrect? Steve, is this, you had put down 4, but is this one that you actually wanted to speak to? I feel like this is not. Oh, B4, not A4. Sorry. Never mind. My fault. All right. So we're in A4. I think we're good then. Yeah, Jay.
Yeah, just one quick question, because I was looking over this map again. It's been a while since we've seen it. Are they anticipating any kind of restroom facilities here?
Yeah, there are part of that. Yeah, they do.
And is that going to be septic, or is that going to be connected to sewer somehow?
It's connected to city. Yeah. Yep. We put it as part of the urban service area to do that. And that's one of the conditions, is that it could do that, and we did confirm that with Public Works. Anything else? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that one's approved. Next one.
Okay. Motion to postpone ordinance 2022-0-16. Zoning ordinance amendment approving rezone request RZ-2443-22 by Bill Buglass, agent for Payne and Dolan, Inc., to rezone from RD Rural Development Zoning District to IG General Industrial Zoning District on property near Cottonwood Drive.
Second.
Sent by Jay. And
This is similar to the previous one that we postponed. The Plan Commission requested staff to work with the Midwest Stone for a resolution regarding the driveway issue they have. So.
all right. Any questions at all? Seeing none, all in favor of postponing, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that's postponed. One more.
Okay. Motion to approve ordinance 2022-0-17, zoning ordinance amendment granting general implementation plan zoning for rezone request RZ-2445-22 by Terrell Walter, agent for Nine Springs Hill, Inc., to rezone from RD, Rural Development, Zoning District to the PDD GIP, Planned Development District, General Implementation Plan, Zoning District to allow for residential and commercial development on property located near County Road MM.
Second.
Sent by Jay. Did Plan Commission approve?
Plan Commission approved.
All right. We also have Brian Munson here to represent Royal Capital this time.
And actually, we also have Terrell Walter, who's joining us on the Zoom call. I don't know if Terrell, if you want to start off, and I'll follow up.
Yeah, indeed. Good evening, council members. Sorry, let me turn on video. I'm stuck in the car, but I appreciate you all's time this evening. So we're happy to bring forth before you the Nine Springs redevelopment on the roughly 30-acre site, which we've been working on for a little over a year now. Happy to bring a mix of housing in addition to some commercial retail and a comprehensive mix of active uses for this, what we would consider a healthy lifestyle campus. I'll let Brian Munson go into a little more detail in terms of the overall project, how it's in alignment with the GIP, et cetera.
All right, well, I will share my screen here and pull the plan up again so that we can see what we're talking about. Again, as Terrell mentioned, we're here tonight on the second step of the process for this project. This is a project that's been well informed by prior approvals with the Ad Edge project in the past, but then also the comprehensive development plan that was in front of the city last year. And so to kind of focus on the framework of this project, the streets and the focus on walkability have not changed. We still have a variety of housing being delivered on this site, both owner-occupied and rental housing options. And then what we have changed has really been a couple of things of input from the community, and that is expanded the opportunity for commercial. So we have incorporated some additional locations for commercial uses near the entrances and expanded the type of commercial that we're looking for based off of some opportunities that are out there. We have done a few slight reconfigurations in terms of the placement of the senior housing pieces on this site. So that has moved out closer to MM. But we still are really excited about how this project takes what's honestly a challenging site and creates a redevelopment proposal that will activate the site, offer diverse housing, and really some destinations along this corridor, both for residents of the neighborhood as well as the community. So you can see here the framework of streets remains, the framework of walkable open spaces scattered throughout, the focus on walkability with bike connections along the site and through the site, along with walking paths that will take advantage of the open space amenities on this site. And so we're really excited to be at the next step and really looking forward to bringing the architecture and the landscape plans forward that will show the styles of the project in greater detail and show the diversity of spaces that we're delivering. So again, we're happy to be here tonight to answer any questions you might have.
Jay?
I have two questions to start with.
Okay.
So I was involved with a neighborhood meeting last night that involves some residential just to the west of here. And one of the concerns that was brought up by several people is the lack of a grocery store in this area. Is something like that a potential use for the property that you are looking at?
We don't really have the square footage for a grocery store. We do have some opportunities. There are kind of three main commercial component locations on the site. The one is at the northern entrance point. We have the opportunity for more of a cafe scale commercial use. At the southern, we're looking and designing for a potential daycare facility. And then some additional commercial spaces, common rooms, as well as gathering spaces in the center there to take advantage of that view. But from a land scale, we're looking at a 35-acre site with a lot of grade on it. Makes some challenges to incorporate the footprints that would be, desirable for grocery stores. I've worked for several in different locations, and flat sites are always a little bit easier when we're talking larger scale. So really, this is focused more at neighborhood services to the corridor, and as well as bringing some density that hopefully will attract and bring more interest for grocers in the region.
All right. The other question, and you may not be at the point of doing this yet, I don't know how much you know about the history of this site, but this site goes back a long way. And previously, and I don't know if it's still operating at all. It's always confusing with the signs out there, but this site had been a clean fill site. So basically, what that means for council members who don't know is it was more or less construction materials, broken up concrete, asphalt, just stuff from sites. So it wouldn't be like garbage, like a regular landfill. It was basically that kind of material. And I know going back about 30 years, the city had a lot of concern that because the city was starting to look at the Nine Springs neighborhood plan, and there was concern that this was not being properly compacted as it was being filled. So there have been some questions about the stability of this land and what could actually be built on it without doing some serious excavation and trying to recompact it. So do you know how far you've gotten in that process? Have you done any core sampling or anything?
Yes, and Kevin Yeska from JSD is on the Zoom call as well. I'll kind of lead off, and then Kevin, if you want to follow up on that. You know, the existing grade and the existing conditions on the site are two of the big challenges of the development of this site, to be honest. We have done multiple additional soil boring tests to determine the type of fill as well as building placement. It is something we are looking very closely at as we move into design of buildings and design of infrastructure. And that was something that, again, that was shared with the city as well as the most recent study that was done. And so, Kevin, I don't know if you would like to take just a few minutes and talk a little bit about some of the geotechnical research that's been done and some of the steps we'll be looking at as we move into design of buildings.
Sure thing. Yeah, definitely. Kevin Yeska with JSD, Site Civil and Landscape Design on the project. We do have a lot of history on this site, as you had mentioned. We worked on this site in 2016 with Alexander and the former Ad Edge development. And what we've learned so far is really, and what we're expecting is that the program really won't change for the roadway construction. With the previous development, there was a lot of undercut to the road, a lot of sand import that essentially we worked back and forth with city engineering as well as AECom, their consultant who they brought on board to make that recommendation, and it was supported by the prior development. And we anticipate the same engineering here in terms of the roadway construction. And then, as Brian had mentioned, we did do additional borings on this site. That is some information that was not provided to us with the Ad Edge development. With Ad Edge, it was all test pits, just dig down 20 feet and see what's there. So these borings did allow us to go a little bit deeper. And as Brian mentioned, we're the architect and structural engineer are evaluating those for building purposes, which we'll report back on with some more information here soon.
Dave.
And just to add a little more color there, Terrell Walter, just wanted to kind of piggyback on what was mentioned by both Brian and Kevin. In our studies, we engage PSI, third-party geotechnical engineer, to come in and do multiple soil borings across the site for our development, so that we can have a good recommendation for the foundations and systems that are needed as part of our development. So, as mentioned, we're factoring all of that into our design in the next phase as well, and have shared that information with the city to date.
I got Dave and then Jim. Go ahead, Dave.
I've been riding by this site for 30 years, watching it go in. You know, there's barrels in there. There's a lot of things. You know, I have a lot of concerns about this site. I'm not, you know, you'd find I'm pretty pro-development, but my concern from engineer and public works, you know, we're going to put in water and sewer that are going to be dedicated to the city, and I'm concerned about, you know, sagging. You know, that all of a sudden I don't have a grade on my sewer anymore, or my water mains are breaking. I'm very concerned about this. I don't know if we can request a longer warranty on these facilities. I just, you know, you know the challenges of the site, but I've watched them pretty firsthand. And as Jay mentioned, when they weren't being compacted, I've watched that site. And our previous city engineer, two engineers ago, he had very grave concerns about it too. So I'm just asking a little more diligence from the city as far as what we're going to get for dedicated facilities. Okay, thank you.
Chad, would you like to add?
Yeah, staff obviously wants to make sure that we are doing our due diligence, and the report that's being generated by PSI is going to be reviewed by a consulting firm that the city is going to hire as well to get also another assessment on their findings in that report. So once that has been completed, I'm sure that information will be shared with council as part of other steps in the process.
Jim, go ahead.
Yes, I like this project, and I met Terrell and this team, and I think they do a pretty good job. He has done extensive work in Milwaukee, and I appreciate that he's going to bring what he learned in building in Milwaukee and have a good project here in Fitchburg. So I really do like this project. I want to see it go forward.
All right. Anyone else? Julia, go ahead.
Yeah, so I really like this project for the that it's gonna bring a mixed income housing to the area, and also I remember from the Alexander project that we discussed at that time the council a lot about the geotechnical and the topography of the site, and also I remember that they mentioned at that time that they can, I agree with the concept about the sewer and all the system when you put it in a land or in a topography where it's unstable, because we don't know exactly what is there until the final report from the geotechnology study. But my question, I remember that they were planning to use engineered soils, a couple of cubic feet. In the filling, and some of the infrastructure is going to be it's going to allow if there is some movement on in the soil. So can you explain a little bit more about that, Kevin? I don't know. You remember from that project?
I do, yeah, and if I was following you correctly there, I can speak to the roadways and elaborate a bit more. So the geotechnical recommendation that came from actually Newman had done the test pits on this site prior, and then as well, AECOM was hired and they did additional test pits all over the site. We've tried to fill the gaps in where those test pits were with where these borings will be on top of, where buildings are placed at the moment. What we found with what AECOM recommended with their prior recommendation was to essentially undercut the roads. So all of these streets that we show on this master plan, envision digging down about 12 feet and backfilling that all with sand. Now, it's almost like this site is set up for that because we are working with the adjacent landowner, Dale Osborne, who has an immense amount of sand right next to this site. So that was always the program prior, that the sand that needed to, let's quote unquote, float the roads and the utilities is right next door. So we hope to negotiate that with Dale, use his sand, and bring that same system in.
And then as far as the buildings go, as we get into the design of these, we'll be looking at different structural systems to support the loads. You notice in the application that the heights of the buildings have come down from previous discussions, so that you're looking at 2, possibly some 3-story elements, so that we can look at a pier system if necessary, or either geopiers or pilings, different techniques to deal with buildings. And there's a lot of examples throughout Madison and of course the country of buildings that are sitting on, either soils that don't have structural bearing capacity for mud purposes or things like that, or filled sites. So it's something that we don't have a concrete answer on right now that says this is exactly the system we're going to use, pardon the pun. But it is something we'll be looking at closely as we move into the design of these buildings, because we recognize that is an issue we have to address for everybody, not just the city, but for Royal Capital as well, to have confidence to move forward.
All right. I don't have anyone else at this point in time, so I think we can go ahead to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay? All right, that is approved.
Right, thank you.
All right, and that is it for Plan Commission, so I can go to Public Works.
I'll move approval, Resolution R 6722, approving agreement for subdivision improvements in the Plat of Highfield Reserve. And again, this was postponed from April.
All right, signed by Randy. Did Public Works approve?
Public Works approved.
Did Finance approve?
Finance approved.
And you want to speak to this, Dave?
Yeah, this is the Fahey development, mixed-use development south of Irish Lane at the south end of the old family farm, and there's approximately, I think it was like 500 units total in this. I don't remember the exact number. It's a large development.
All right. Any questions on this one? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. That one's approved. Next one.
Next, I move approval of Resolution R-7122, authorizing acceptance of 2022 Lacey Road Bridge Maintenance bid.
Second.
Seconded by Jay. Did Public Works approve?
Public Works approved.
Did Finance approve?
Finance approved.
And what's this one?
A small section of this bridge, the concrete has been damaged. We think maybe a plow, and it's going to, it was identified in the bridge inspection by the county or the state previous year as kind of critical, needing to be replaced. We received bids. They were below the engineer's estimate. There's a small section where we have to go down to the rebar and put new concrete in that area. There'll be a kind of a, I don't know exactly how to describe it, a kind of a cement, thin cement coating that'll be put over that, and then a seal. You've seen that same on a lot of the bridges in the area. So again, this we were below the engineering estimate, and this was something identified needed to be done.
All right. Any questions at all? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that's approved. Next one.
Next, I move approval of Resolution R-7722, approving revised agreement for subdivision improvements in the Lacey Ridge Townhomes CSM.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sent by Randy. Did Public Works approve?
Public Works approved.
Did Finance approve?
Finance approved.
All right, what's this one?
This is a development just off of Lacey Road, and kind of the stumbling block with the backside of this with Nobel Drive. Is that the Quarry Hill? Yeah, Quarry Hill. That there was grading issues, trying to obtain easements, and finally they were able to get an agreement where the property owners, future property owners in this subdivision will be responsible for future costs for grading to accommodate the Quarry Hill Road going through.
All right. Any questions at all on this one?
There was discussion on this. We wanted to make sure that property owners know this, and because I can almost guarantee I won't be on board anymore, but someone, maybe some of these younger people here, you'll be having a homeowner coming through and complaining that they didn't know about it because the realtor didn't tell them, and we made this needs to be in the covenant or whatever, that they are well aware of this future cost.
All right. Seeing nothing else, all in favor say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that's approved. Next one.
Next, move approval Resolution R-8122, approving a pedestrian bike path easement agreement on Lot 1 of CSM 15059.
Second.
Sent by Gabriella. Just one clarification. Are you making the motion that Public Works did?
Public Works approved as is.
As is. Okay, so it's that one. Okay. And so Public Works says, Plan Commission, Randy, what do they do?
We approved as amended, though.
Yeah, and what was the amendment?
The amendment was approving a pedestrian bike path easement agreement on Lot 1 of CSM 15059 as a 10-foot path constructed of asphalt or concrete. And if it's concrete, the joint shall be saw cut.
Yeah, so what the motion is 8 feet, and then Planning Commission had said, no, we wanted 10 feet instead, so.
Correct.
All right, so I have David Gevers on to speak to this, and then we'll do some citizen comments after that. David, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good night. I learned about this amendment yesterday. So we weren't at Plan Commission. This was sort of a defunct as part of this larger redevelopment. So it was a little surprised to hear this amendment. It's, you know, it's a little bit concerning just because we had like negotiated, you know, we had gotten comments back from staff and fully negotiated out this 8-foot alternative because we're trying to create a concrete, you know, edge condition for this redevelopment so that it has a more urban, you know, feel to it. Versus a trail, which is, you know, more suburban. So if you guys recall the feel of this thing, I can share my screen and pull up the rendering if that's helpful. But so I was just a little bit surprised to see this change. I respect the fact that, you know, more space is better when you're talking about lots of traffic and lots of bikes, you know, moving in both directions. But the 8-foot was a negotiated discussion with staff over several comments, staff comments and responses from us back and forth, and was part of the you know, the SIP approval process. You know, I don't know if the 2 feet is warranted here. The problem that we're facing, concrete is a lot more expensive than asphalt. If you follow construction pricing at all, it's very difficult right now. The pricing is coming in very, very high. There's a lot of supply chain issues. And so we're working very, very hard to make the project work and be feasible and bring it in line with where we can get it done. So we're working hard to kind of, you know, trim everywhere we can. And so to have an extra, you know, $20,000, $30,000 of additional concrete work was a little bit of a surprise there. You know, the asphalt is cheaper and we can go that route. We just don't think it'll look as nice. And that's why we pared it down a bit and made it an 8-foot, you know, concrete sidewalk. So we would, you know, respectfully request that the city council kind of honor the previous, you know, agreed upon dimension for that easement.
All right. Do you kind of go to the?
I was going to go to staff perspective.
Okay, I want to do staff before we have community.
You can do
I was going to do community. Yeah. Yeah. All right. We got a couple of people from the public here to speak, and I don't know if Steve, you're going to go first. I think you're going to come up together. But we have both Steve Arnold from Fitchburg and Bill Jetzer from Fitchburg.
Correct. Yeah, Bill Jetzer, 2822 Richardson Street. I've been in Fitchburg about 25 years now. I'm here just to speak in support of Bike Fitchburg's proposed amendments to R 7822 and R 8122. And this body, as well as the Board of Public Works and the Plan Commission, should have received this very same letter from Bike Fitchburg. In it, we lay out five good reasons here for a 10-foot path rather than an 8-foot path. It just makes more sense to give pedestrians and bikers more opportunity to get around in the city, especially this should be a very busy connector for the new hub. And of course, if we do go with concrete, which, you know, it's just not as comfortable to ride bikes on when every few seconds you go thump, thump, thump over the joints in the concrete. So we do ask that those joints be saw cut rather than tooled in for comfort. In addition, it's my understanding that if this path is concrete, then technically it's a sidewalk and bikes are not legally allowed on sidewalks. But if we paint a yellow stripe down the middle, then it becomes a path. And then bikers as well as pedestrians can use it. So we ask that that be done as well. I think those are my main points here. Thank you.
All right. Steve?
Thank you. We do, speaking for Steve Arnold, 2530 Targhee Street, and speaking for Bike Fitchburg, we do like this project, and it's a great addition to the neighborhood, and we respect the work of staff and the developer. Unfortunately, there was not someone involved in those discussions who could speak for bikers. And so really of all the different options, the important one is the path width for safe two-way passing. There have been expressed privacy concerns for the first floor residents by moving the path, the near path edge 2 feet closer to the street. The path users would be an average of 1 foot farther from first floor windows, and that's really an architecturally poor solution for privacy. A much better solution would be to raise the floor plate. You need more height in the first floor apartments to give the necessary privacy, and trying to push the path back is not a good solution for that. The next door hub forthcoming will have a bicycle feature so that people on bicycles from all over the city will be drawn to this point. We want them to be able to ride their bikes there on our safe and comfortable network. We don't want people to say, well, we can't ride on that sidewalk, or it's not comfortable to ride on that sidewalk, or it's too busy and the sidewalk is too skinny. So we'll load the bikes up in the cars and we'll drive to the parking lot of the hub. That works for folks that have cars and carriers and disposable time, but for really the target audience, it might make them stay home. A 10-foot path would be equality. Investing even more in this neighborhood would be equity, because this is a traditionally or a historically disadvantaged neighborhood. To invest less width for the bicycle network, we believe would be discrimination against the users in this neighborhood. And we think it's a very poor thing to put an 8-foot path into our system. So if the main concern is cost, we recommend asphalt, because that would be the better solution for bicyclists too. And we would be happy to take any questions on our positions.
All right, thank you both. All right, Chad, would you like to give a staff perspective or report?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Mr. Gevers had mentioned, staff had negotiated the 8-foot path, 8-foot wide path made of concrete as part of the subdivision improvement agreement process. Certainly, recognize the value of biking in Fitchburg and the high level of involvement and prestige that our city has every year in trying to continue our pursuit of, I believe it's gold certification as it relates to being a bicycle-friendly community. So our community. So we have a lot of different things that staff is trying to accomplish here in this particular agreement and negotiation. So obviously we're looking at a redevelopment area, which obviously is a bit different than, new subdivision or development coming in an open space or a greenfield area. And in this particular case, we're trying to accomplish not only adding this multi-use path as a connector from Fish Hatchery Road to the city's forthcoming hub phase 1, but we also wanted to ensure that we had adequate space to install street lighting in this particular stretch of road. The city's been contacted by at least one resident in the building across the street on the south side of Traceway Drive about the lack of street lighting there. And we also wanted to have space to install trees in this section to obviously help improve the tree canopy. We thought also that the longevity and the aesthetics of concrete would make sense, also based on visioning for Fish Hatchery Road and its desire for it to have more of an urban feel. Concrete seemed to make sense from a staff perspective. And then, of course, as I mentioned, concrete does tend to last longer and have less maintenance than asphalt typically would. A couple other points that we were looking at is obviously we wanted to be cognizant of impervious surface ratios as it relates to this project, and being consistent with allowing adequate ratios to be met. And then probably one of the other largest considerations is it was staff's perspective to try to keep a uniform path width all the way from Fish Hatchery Road, potentially all the way up to Post Road through further trail development. And one of the things that we know is, at least from our perspective, is that whatever is going to go in front of the hub, we should be doing that's consistent with what other path widths are in that stretch, again, to keep keep a consistent width. So, for instance, if we were going to do a 10-foot wide path in front of the hub, then it would make sense to obviously require a 10-foot wide path elsewhere through that stretch. And we've identified a couple of challenges as we've continued to look at this that have presented themselves as it relates to path width. One is, as the hub is currently designed in phase one, a 10-foot wide path fronting that project could be problematic. It would require some adjustment to the path in so much as that it would have to have a jog or a bend all the way up to the curb line in order to accomplish a 10-foot wide path through the entirety of the hub. And then the other challenging aspect to the path width and keeping it consistent through this entire stretch is the Fitchburg Ridge parcel. That parcel, there is no plans that the city is aware of for redevelopment. And ultimately, in talking with our Public Works Director, that stretch is going to be significantly challenging to have a 10-foot wide path because we would likely need to keep it all within the city right-of-way, otherwise we'd have to pay for an easement from the Fitchburg Ridge shopping center ownership or that parcel's ownership. So ultimately, you can hopefully understand where staff was coming from in the conversation and the negotiations through this, and that ultimately, as we were trying to balance many goals and objectives and trying to strike a balanced solution to this entire stretch, really, as you're talking about the Fitchburg Ridge parcel, as you're talking about the Plesco parcel, as you're talking about the hub parcel. This was the best of the available solutions as we could see them.
All right, council questions, comments? Gabriella?
I just wanted to point out that this resolution that's in front of us, R8122, is just an easement. It's not dictating the width of the path. Obviously, the next one is the agreement that has all the details associated with it. But for R8122 specifically, it's just providing the easement so that this path can be built, which is why what's laid out in the now be here resolved clauses in the resolution. So I think we probably should just move on to the next one if we're going to discuss the width of the path, just because I think it's obvious that this is just an easement.
Sorry.
Dave, go ahead. I have Dave and then Julia.
Isn't the width of the easement in this?
Yeah, we should talk about it now.
The width of the easement is in this resolution, and it's 8 feet, I think.
Yeah, we should talk about it
Am I
now. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Do you have anything else? All right. Julia.
No, yeah, I want to mention what David mentioned that this, the dimension is, or the easement is in the resolution, so we should be discussing this.
Yep. Yeah. Other council questions, comments? Dave?
Could Mr. Gevers bring up do you have an artist rendition of what it would look like? I asked for that at council the last time, so that I felt that would be important for council members to see that, to make this decision.
You guys see that?
Yes, we can.
This is the aerial view. This is the street view.
Do you have a further comment at this point?
No, I just want council to see that. Picture's worth 1,000 words.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, I just want to bring something up, and I appreciate the work that went into this, Chad, with you and your staff. One of the things I don't like, and I'll just be blunt here, is when people throw the word discrimination around, because I really do think that reflects negatively on the people who are working on this, and they put some hard work into this. And I like the explanation that has come up with it. So to say that this amounts to discrimination, I don't think that's proper. And in the spirit of decorum, I'll just keep my comments short and end it there. But a couple of people on this council know how I feel about that. So I just want to thank Chad for your leadership and also for really explaining what went into this decision.
All right. Any further council Yeah. Oh, Julia, go ahead. Yep, I got you, Julia, go ahead.
So my question is for, there is some noise. My question is for David is, if we need to, if we need to change the width of the path to 10 foot, how is going to affect your final design? Because, you already have your final design, your CIP approved and everything. So I assume that it's going to be some, it's going to affect the development, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest impact is twofold. One is the cost, which I touched on, and the other is Chad had mentioned the pervious impervious ratio. And so we're trying to maintain that. And when you build an extra 2 feet of concrete or asphalt or whatever it ends up being, along over 1,000 feet of frontage, it adds up. And we're trying to find every which corner we can to satisfy the pervious requirements here. We're doing green roofs, we're doing green space in the courtyard, and trying to be as creative as we can. So I would say those are the two biggest impacts here.
Anything else, Julia? Nope. Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions or comments at this point in time, so we can go ahead and vote. And again, the motion is the original 8-foot wide path. So all in favor of that, and say aye.
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 Aye. And opposed? All right, that is approved. Next one, Dave.
Next, move approval resolution R7822, approving agreement for subdivision improvements for Lot 1 of CSM 15059.
Second.
Sent by Gabriella. And did Public Works approve?
Public Works approved.
All right, Chad, I'll let you actually kick this off before we go further.
Yeah, thank you. This one has obviously a unique component to it in some regards. As part of the process of the development here, Plesco has proposed transferring park credits, much like was approved by City Council as part of the Highline project. And staff had taken a look at this proposal and has identified that obviously our ordinances currently do not allow for a transfer of park credit, nor does staff have the authority to administratively approve such a request. So as we continue to identify or evaluate this proposal, we identified two options that would be available for the council to consider tonight. One is to follow the existing ordinances, which obviously do not allow for a transfer of park credits. And the second option would be if council indicated support for transfer of park credits, to direct staff to provide revisions to our existing ordinances for council consideration. And then ultimately, if council were to approve those revisions that would allow the transfer, then go ahead and proceed with the transfer at that point in time in order to keep the process as smooth as possible. As I've talked about these two options, two main questions have really come up as staff has evaluated this. The first one is, does council wish to recognize demolished units, which obviously a strategy such as recognizing demolished units as park credits could be a viable redevelopment strategy for the city to wish to consider as housing stock ages, particularly in our northern area of Fitchburg that was developed, 50 years-ish ago. We anticipate that further development requests or redevelopment requests will be coming in coming years. I can't say if, but I think I can say when at some point here. And I think that staff's feeling is that this is an important question for council to provide direction to staff on how we should potentially look to evaluate this sort of item. As an example, if, the townhomes on Egeman Road, for instance, behind the Park Bank Support Center, administrative offices. If a developer were to come in and say, we'd like to redevelop these townhomes, and, you know, can we, if there's 20 units there, can we get 20 units worth of park credits for those? These are the sorts of things that, you know, staff anticipates coming up in the coming years, and again, trying to address this now versus having situations where we need to continue to talk about these things. Provides clear direction to staff, provides clear path for developers and future councils to follow. Second, kind of the sub point to this first question of whether we wish to recognize park credits for demolished units is, does the council wish to recognize housing park unit credits for housing that was constructed prior to the city's ordinance requiring either parkland dedication or fee in lieu of parkland to be paid? And that ordinance went into effect in 1985. I didn't have a chance to include that information in the memo that was provided as part of the packet, but I did want to at least provide that now. And then the second question is, does council wish to allow for the transfer of park credits as a potential strategy to use not only for this project, but potentially for future projects as well? And we feel that if the council does wish to indicate that level of support, that an ordinance could be crafted in such a way to provide structure to a transfer that would minimize its impact on staff to a certain extent, and put sorts of conditions on there, such as perhaps the properties or parcels had to be adjacent to one another and those sorts of things. So staff has spent considerable amount of time evaluating both of the options, and clearly we feel that both options are viable. It's a matter of which direction the council would like to take in this particular case. So I think that if there's other questions that you have of me as we continue to discuss this, you know, I'm certainly available. Obviously, Mr. Gevers is here and can share the perspective of Plusco as it relates to this specific request, and perhaps any other considerations they'd like to share as it relates to future development projects, you know, speaking from the developer perspective, not necessarily that they have anything in the pipeline, so to speak.
Yeah, David, if you want to go ahead, and then we'll get citizen comment after that.
Yeah, happy to. I just want to thank Chad for kind of laying the issues out there. I appreciate all the conversations that we've had and all the dialogue back and forth on this issue that we've been having for months now. It's at the same time very complicated, but at the same time very not complicated. To give a little bit of history, the High Line, right, the project we did across the street from this site, you know, this is exactly what we did there, right? We had, there were two old buildings that existed where the High Line is right now. There's 5 buildings that exist where this project is being proposed. There's another 2 buildings that were taken down previously on Post Road, which is just immediately adjacent to this site. We ended up taking the first 7 buildings, applying those credits to the High Line, those parkland credits to the High Line. You know, I feel that the staff memo, you know, slightly misrepresented kind of the history there associated with that. That yes, it was a senior affordable project, and that precipitated us needing to get creative about how we're going to handle these costs, because when you have an affordable project, the rents are lower and the value is lower, and the ability to finance is a little bit trickier. So we had to get a little bit creative. That said, when it was brought to council and council voted to approve the transfer of credits, it was really predicated on the fact that those credits existed, that they were ours, and that we could use them. And really that's all we're seeking to do in this instance. In that instance, I think we had 140 or 150 credits, which we applied to the High Line. We then supplemented that with the area that was dedicated for the hub, and those 2 things combined satisfied the parkland dedication requirement. In this instance, we only have 60 credits remaining. We want to use those 60 credits. The total parkland dedication fee In lieu for this site, and given we're not a farm, we're not, you know, on some greenfield site where we can dedicate, you know, acreage, 12 acres towards parkland dedication, we have to pay the fee. The 60 credits take about $250,000 off of that total roughly $800,000 fee. As I said before, construction pricing right now is very, very tricky. It's very difficult. You hear about it everywhere. These supply chain disruptions, things that normally wouldn't cost very much are costing enormous sums of money. The lead times are exorbitant, so you're having with different alternatives, and that leads to additional costs. So we're doing everything we can to sort of battle that and keep this project moving forward. But every dollar matters, and we're working very, very hard to, you know, we can to minimize those costs and come up with solutions for that. So this $250,000 or $260,000 is very, very meaningful to the feasibility of this project. You know, I would add that you know, I guess just logically speaking, and I pose this to the city attorney as well, as, you know, for those 2 remaining buildings that are available for, you know, if we were to rebuild those buildings, would we have to pay parkland dedication fees? And the answer was no. So clearly the idea here, credits exist, the housing stock exists, and you're simply replacing that housing stock. And that's where the parkland dedication requirement comes in. If it was new, if you're replacing existing units, it's a little bit of a different story. And we feel like this transfer should be allowed as it was with the High Line. I guess the other thing I would just add is that I know I've heard from some members of the council and of the city, and it's very clear that there is a lot of attention on redevelopment in this area and wanting to see buildings get redeveloped. And I think this is a no-brainer. This is, you know, this is like the easiest way for the city to encourage redevelopment of obsolete housing or housing that you don't want to see anymore. So, you know, to allow for the replacement of this housing and not necessarily adding additional housing to the housing stock and therefore the parkland needs. So I guess that's what I would say. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I guess that's it.
All right, thank you. We'll go to citizen comment now, and we have both Bill and Steve again. I'm not sure who's going first this time.
It'll be me.
All right, go ahead.
I won't reintroduce myself. I really respect all the work and the complexity of this project that everybody's putting in, so I apologize for yanking you back to the bike path. We found out at the Bike Fitchburg monthly meeting last night from Wade Thompson that the hub has been proposed to have a 10-foot path. This was after many months of expecting and being assured that there was going to be a 10-foot path there. We think that there needs to be a 10-foot path at the hub as well. There is a natural surface bike park behind the hub, and we do not think impervious surface area should be a problem. And if this is going to be a bicycle facility, then there needs to be proper pathways to it. We recognize the issue at the south end of the Fitchburg Ridge Mall. It's about 80 feet. A new retaining wall has to be moved, that was built as part of the Fish Hatchery Road project. It's another example of not having a plan for a Fitchburg Greenway system, for a safe and comfortable network that goes throughout the city, and instead developing it opportunistically as projects come in. We need to have the overall vision, and we need to work to standards, and that standard should be 10 feet. The specific implementation plan that you all approved in March calls for a 10-foot asphalt path. To be clear, these 2 resolutions amend the specific information, specific implementation plan from 8 to 10 foot from 10 to 8 foot concrete. So we really would like the specific implementation plan not modified by these 2 resolutions. The frontage is not 1,000 feet, it's 625 feet, and the net of additional pavement is 111 and a quarter square yards. And so we would again ask you to modify not the resolution, but the subdivision improvements agreement to specify the wider path, and that we would also ask you to reconsider the previous resolution that you just passed, to repass it with the amendments. Anything to add, Bill?
Well, I would just like to ask the council to consider how often do we have discussions saying, oh, we can't afford to have a road this wide or with this many amenities, versus how often we do the same for bike paths. I feel like Fitchburg is above average in the state of Wisconsin in its bicycle network, but it still considers bikers and pedestrians, in my opinion, second-class citizens in the infrastructure that we build. So I guess I just would like you to know that I think for the good of, for the health of our citizens, for the health of our planet, we should be investing more in our pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure as opposed to our automobile infrastructure.
All right, thank you. That's all I have for citizen comments. I'll open up to comments or questions from council. Jay, go ahead. I thought you might want to say something.
Most of you received a rather starkly worded memo from me last night, and I would like that included in the minutes of this meeting. So far tonight, what I've heard brought up is that when the High Line was proposed, this invented parkland credit came out of nowhere, and some members of the council apparently voted for it. I don't know how you get parkland credit for units that you never dedicated parkland for. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's one of the most absurd things I've ever heard. This is not a redevelopment project. This is, as I've been told many, many times through the process of getting this approved, this is a vacant parcel. And it is a vacant parcel. It's not redevelopment, and if it was a redevelopment project, I think we as a council can work out different things with the developers who are involved in such a thing at the time. I wanted to have a redevelopment proposal up here, but we're not there yet. Maybe we won't ever get there. But for now, developers all over this city are paying parkland dedication fees for new construction, and that's what this is. They should pay the proper park dedication fee that everybody else has to pay. And when we get to a redevelopment, we can talk about that. And I do think we probably need to revisit the ordinances to deal with that particular issue. But we're not in a position to do that tonight. And even if we were, it wouldn't apply to this project because this is not a redevelopment project. This is building on a vacant piece of land. Now, it will be pointed out that there were buildings here at one point. Yes, there were. I think as far as my recollection is, the last building that was demolished in this area was 12 years ago. So this is far from being a redevelopment. This is just somebody saying, hey, we have a $37 million building that we're talking about building, and we're going to cry about $250,000 in parkland dedication fees. That doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. It doesn't work for me, and I hope it doesn't work for the rest of this council.
Gabriel?
Is it okay if I respond to that, or should we?
Well, no, we'll get Gabriella and a few other people first. So
Okay.
it's not back and forth all the time. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I guess in my mind, I see this more as a housekeeping item because this is a strategy that was developed several years back for this particular area of town, which is unique because it's an urban area of town. It's difficult to dedicate land in an urban area because there's just not land available for it. And my understanding is that the terminology we're using of parkland credits is confusing because I think ultimately what it means is that you pay parkland dedication fees when you're increasing the number of people in the area. Because if the people in the area go up, you need more parkland to have good city services. And because there was a reduction in housing units because of those fires that burned down those units, the net add for new units is less than what's being added here because there was those destruction of units before. So I think the terminology is confusing. I had to go back and I had to take a look at it because ultimately it's really just about how many, the development is not adding that many number of units because there was a reduction in the past. I guess that's my understanding of it. And so I think that this strategy was worked out during the Highline project with staff working on it. It's just a continuation of that strategy to make this happen. And I think the staff said we should just update our ordinances in accordance, which I agree. We should go ahead and do that. But I don't think we should allow it. We should just continue changing back and forth depending on whether or not someone has a particular opinion of an individual project. If we've done it before, it worked, it's appropriate in this situation, I think we should do it again, and I think we should update the ordinances to reflect that as the staff recommended. Yeah, so I see this as more of like a housekeeping issue.
I'll give a little more background, actually. So when the Highline came through, that was like 3 months after I was elected to the council, and there's a few of us that were brand new to the council at that time, and it actually wasn't a strategy. Staff actually at the time recommended that we didn't do the transfer of credits and that we also didn't go above our guidelines for TID, and the council at that point in time essentially ignored staff recommendation. In retrospect, now that I have more experience, I probably wouldn't have done those two things because and there's not many places where you're going to have this transfer of credits in the city, but it wasn't a strategy at the time. It was actually the council going against what staff recommendation was at the time. So it's not a thought out strategy. It's something that is unique because there's not a lot of spots in Fitchburg like this, but it was not actually what staff recommended at that point in time either. So, Jay.
But there are spots in the city where there actually has been redevelopment. And this is the first time that a developer has ever come in and said, oh, we get credits for units that were demolished 12 years ago. I can tell you that where Scott Kelly is building apartments over on the east side of Sayin Road, there are at least, I think, a total now of 10 houses that were demolished. And Scott Kelly never came in and said, well, we deserve parkland credits for these 10 houses that we took down. This has happened in other projects. On the, what is that development that's over on Fitchburg Road? The new development over there.
Oh, the quarry.
There were 4 houses that were demolished there, and no one came in saying, well, we deserve credits for buildings that were demolished. And those were buildings that were being demolished contemporaneously, not 10 or 12 years ago. So I don't. First of all, I think this strategy, when it was done with the Highline, probably violated our ordinance and shouldn't have been done. It was done against staff recommendation, and I don't think there's a reason to continue to do things that way when there's really no reason to do it for this project.
I've got Randy, then Julia, and then Jim on the list. Go ahead, Randy.
This may be a housekeeping issue, but I'm very confused on how someone receives credit when they don't make the initial contribution. I mean, it's just blowing my mind. I guess I need to navigate that through my mind a little bit further. But I'm really having a difficult time understanding that concept. So I think that's all I'll have to say for the moment.
All right. Julia, go ahead.
So my comment is about, I am looking at the big picture here is, this is maybe this is not a redevelopment project, but it's a redevelopment area. This is an area where we try to redevelop for many, many years, that we have invested a lot of money. I know there is a precedent. Previous council approved a transfer of credit. And the developer, even with the deduction of the credit, is going to still pay more than $500,000 in part dedication fees. So I am looking here at this is a great project, coming to an area where we need this type of development to bring that mixed income housing. For me, is a redevelopment area. And, you know, I mean, I don't, you know, I approve it. I was in the council where we approved the transfer way back for the High Line because it was an affordable housing project. But the idea is that I agree that we need to have an ordinance in place to determine how we're going to proceed in the future. But also my question is, if we have other projects in that area, in the north part of Fitchburg Road, for example, and they need to, the developer need to redevelop those buildings, does it mean that they need to repay again park dedication fee? So all of those questions, we need to address it in an ordinance, and I agree 100% with that we need that. But on the other issue, I am looking at the big picture is like, this is a redevelopment area. So, you know, and if we did it one time, we can do it again. So, but then we need to set up some sort of, you know, ordinance and procedures.
I have Jim and then Jim.
Yeah, where I come down on this, I just think there needs to be a process first. I mean, we've done it before. Now we're talking about, well, let's do it again without any process. I mean, at what point do you put a process in? And I don't think it's fair that all of a sudden we approve this and now, oh, let's put a process in. So now everybody after this, you know, got to go to a different set of standards. So I just think it should be a process before, an ordinance before we decide that we should just do this.
Jay?
Just something Julia said just tripped a trigger, and it irritates me. Nobody is asking the developer here to pay parkland dedication fees again, because they were never paid to begin with. You know, Randy made the point a few minutes ago. How on earth do you get a credit for something you never paid? This is absurd to me. It makes no logical sense at all. I just don't understand it.
I have Gabriella and then Julia. I'll let you in here, Dave, in a second, David, but go ahead, Gabriella.
Just wanted to ask Chad to respond to Jim about, because my understanding is that they're putting a process into place with this, that the developer would put up the full amount, we would revise the ordinance, and then if it passed, we would give that, refund that money. So they put it up in earnest money. Anyway, Chad, could you talk about that?
Yeah, that is a part of the recommendation. One of the solutions that was offered to council would be to require Plesco to pay the full parkland dedication as the ordinances are currently written, and or provide a letter of credit, which is also an allowable way to cover those by statute. And at what point in time in the future, if and when council revised the ordinances to allow a recognition and a transfer of credit, then Plesco could come back and ask for a refund and or a reduction in the letter of credit. That is the path that staff would recommend if you elect to go down the revision path and support a transfer of credits and a recognition of credits. We have concerns if we were just going to continue to do one-offs here. There's certainly fairness and equity concerns with other developers if we continue to do these projects where, you know, there's a request here and a request there that go contrary to our ordinances. So this is definitely an issue that needs to be addressed, you know, regardless of the outcome tonight necessarily on the transfer conversation. Clearly, I think this is an item that needs to be addressed in our ordinances as it relates to future requests for redevelopment, particularly in northern Fitchburg, where we may see some of this happen.
David, I know you wanted to say a little bit, and I'll go to Julia, and then Shannon, and then Jay.
Are you to me, Aaron?
Yeah, David. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I guess I just want to clarify a couple items. one question in terms of like parkland dedication with the original development, the golf course was deeded to the city as part of the original development.
Oh, you just froze up
And
on us.
dedication as part of that initial development, dedication as part of that. The other thing I would want to point out too is that that's not accurate that staff did not recommend the transfer of credits. If you go back and watch Plan Commission or watch City Council, or you can call Sonia, she recommended the transfer of credits, and you can look at the notes. I mean, that's just fact. And then as far as, hey, it's a redevelopment, not redevelopment. I mean, this is clearly a redevelopment. The city required us to tear those buildings down. That was not something that we would have done at the time that we did it. That was something that the city requested of us. I'm not quite following that logic. And then you talked about there's a couple other developments that 4 houses here, 12 houses there, and they didn't ask for credits. It's like, well, it's a very different, I'm sure that's a different site in a different area with different economics. The parkland dedication ordinance as it's written right now favors, farmland development, right? Where you have 40 acres, you can easily dedicate 10, 12 acres to something. So it's which is really urban infill. I just want to point that out.
All right. Julia, go ahead.
Yes, I want to clarify the point. Jay, when I was making a comment, I was talking as an example. What happened if other developments decided to tear down the buildings and to build again. I wasn't talking about this development, so I want to clarify that. And I also want to put in the record that I am in favor to have an ordinance so where we can clarify all this issue, and also we are fair with the rest of the developers that they are coming to the city in the future if they need to do something similar. We need to have a process.
All right, Shannon, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, did I turn it off? There, you got it. Thank you. I was just going to say that, I agree with Jay. I don't understand how you can get credits for something that you never had in the first place. So in this, I'm going to vote no, and if an ordinance comes out where you can transfer credits, I'm probably going to vote no for that too. So just a heads up.
Jay.
Well, on that note, just to clarify, what we're going to vote on is this agreement that does not include these mythical credits. So in order to include the mythical credits, this would have to be amended. So I think this should be approved as it is, the CSM, the subdivision improvements. I do want to clarify one thing that has been stated a couple of times by David, and that is that whatever happened with the golf course, or whatever happened when the fairways and the pines were approved, which used to be called Ridgewood, that happened under county zoning. There was nothing dedicated to the city of Fitchburg because the city of Fitchburg didn't exist until 1985. So those buildings were built back in the 70s, and I don't. It's an apples and oranges comparison. It's not even close to the same. So it turns out that much of the golf course property happens to be in what's now called the Nine Springs E-Way, and that's a different discussion for a different night. But regardless of that, a lot of this discussion we are having right now would have been handled had we done a more comprehensive plan of the area, which we didn't do. We just approved this one single lot. And this is why it's important that we take, if we're going to take a bigger picture view, as Julia mentioned earlier, that we actually take a bigger picture view instead of looking at one lot at a time. So I hope in the future we will consider that and consider this discussion we're having right now, which could have been resolved by looking at a larger project for that entire area, which we need to do at some point anyway.
And we've got Gabriella and then Julia after that.
Yeah, I guess I'm just from a process issue, like this happened back when we did the High Line, and I do think that it should be something that we can use as a strategy in the future, especially the point has been made with redevelopment. If you knock down a building and then build it again, you're just replacing the units that were gone. So you're not increasing the number of people that are in the city, and therefore you should be able to get a credit for the, you know, the situation as it currently is, as it currently stands. Gosh, I'm trying to figure out the better way to explain this. But anyway, you know, it's a strategy that I've been used in the past. I do think we should update our ordinances to let this strategy be used in the future, because it is fair that because it's been used in the past, it should be allowed for any developer in the area to be used going forward. But then also, I mean, I just think that this, it really is a strategy that can help us do urban infill. Because when you reduce the number of apartments, if you always have to pay the same, if you demolish apartments and you always have to pay the same amount of fees again and again, it becomes, because you can't dedicate land, because there's no land available to dedicate because it's so dense already. You have to have exceptions on the books so that we can make this work, because we're not just an agricultural expanding city that's expanding into agricultural areas. We're also an urban area that needs to, and we do really need to do infill. It's an important strategy that we're gonna need to work on because of, that's one of the reasons that how we grow sustainably is making sure that we prioritize infill. But ultimately, I think this strategy makes sense. I mean, in the end, it's not so much about credits, it's not about what was paid before. What it's about is the net increase in units. That's what it is. I think stop thinking about it as credits. It's just there was a reduction in the number of units, and then we're adding back more units, but it's not, the net increase is what the Plesco is paying for, which is why that parkland dedication gets reduced. I think it makes sense. I think it helps move this project forward, and I know this project had support from the council, 7-1. I think a lot of people think that this type of project is one of the ways that we can start lifting up this area because it's a market rate units in an area that is all under market rate. So I think it's a good project. I think seven of us supported it back then, and this is a strategy that they worked out. This is not just some random out pie in the sky thing. They worked with staff on this, and staff is just making sure that our ordinances are ready to line up behind that strategy. And I think I don't think we should pretend like this is just coming out of nowhere. This is something that they worked with staff. Staff is just making sure that our ordinances are gonna line up to make this strategy possible. But I really think that we need to look at this as a strategy that we need to have in place in order for us to do urban infill development, which is something that will be coming down the line, especially in this area. And I think we should do a neighborhood plan for this area, a new one.
Right. I think another thing too that I haven't heard anyone mention, and maybe this is part of your thinking anyway, is that part of the reason we're putting the hub park in right now is because there was no parkland put into that area. And so now it's on the city to spend all that money. So I've got Shannon, and then, okay, Jay, Dave, and then Randy, and then Julia.
Was that me?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't like this strategy. I think there are probably 10,000 strategies we could come up with that are better than this one. And I think that one of those strategies involves doing a comprehensive development plan. I used to live in the fairways. I lived on Post Road, and there's actually quite a lot of vacant land over there. Now, not on this particular lot, but if you walk around in between those buildings that are there, there's a lot of what we might call green space, but there isn't any parkland. The only park for that whole neighborhood is this tiny little postage stamp of a park that's on Leopold Way, which I think is the smallest park in the city of Fitchburg. And there's a swing set, there's a garbage can, and I think that's about it. There might be a slide there. I don't remember. I haven't been in that park in a long time. My kids were small a long time ago. You know, we used to walk down to that park, and that was it. That was all that was dedicated for actual parkland. I think there's clearly a need for parkland in the area. Now, the kids who live there, there's a lot of kids who live there, and the kids who live there find ways to play anyway, which is what kids do. But we need to actually have some park infrastructure in that neighborhood, which a broader neighborhood plan would have brought to light. I don't like this idea of making up these credits, and I agree with you, this is the wrong way to think about it. I don't like the idea of making up credits for something that was never paid. I think that's just, you know, that's just inventing money out of nothing. And while it's great for the developer, it's not so good for our park dedication fund. And at some point, just on a slightly unrelated note, on Monday I had a meeting with a couple of residents of the Southdale neighborhood. And there's a lot of kids who live up there, and there's one park up there. And that park it's a fairly good size, but the town of Madison obviously has not been very diligent in their maintenance of the equipment. And I'm telling you, some of that stuff is dangerous. There's wire rope up there that's fraying with sharp ends sticking out. We are going to have to invest a significant amount of money in that park, probably starting next year. That's going to be an expense coming our way. And I'm not necessarily saying that money from this project should go to fund that, but somewhere we're going to have to find some money to deal with whatever we have to deal with up there. And you know, we have a lot of challenges coming up. At some point, there's going to be a need for actual park land in this neighborhood. I think all of us agree that those buildings that are sitting up there that are part of the Pines and the Fairways right now are not going to be there forever. I bet even David would agree with that. Now, I don't know how long from now forever goes. I don't know when this might happen, but I think we all know that those buildings have lived most of their useful life at this point. So we need to have the funds available to create the parkland that needs to be dealt with. The geographic area that we're talking about is fairly large, and so I don't even know if we can do this with one neighborhood park. I think we're going to probably need at least two when that time comes. That's a discussion for another day, but we need to be thinking ahead. And I don't like this whole credits idea is just it's mind-boggling to me. It makes no logical sense whatsoever. So I'm not going to say anything else on this topic. I think I've said quite a bit multiple times in several different ways. But I think we should approve this subdivision improvement agreement the way it stands and move on and come up with something better for the future.
Dave.
Yeah, I thought Gabriella laid out a fairly concise, why the credits were there, they're existing units. You and I would disagree, but I'm in favor of providing an amendment to revise the ordinance to allow the tax credits. I'd like to point out just a couple things. This project is not using ATF. The cost for parkland dedication is driving up the cost for buildings in our city. And I'm not against parkland dedication, but I would tell you, outside of the North Fish Hatchery Road area, we have more parks than we can maintain. And as Alder Udell and I were discussing before, they're hardly used at all. So we have plenty of parks. The other thing that I fall back on, though, is all right. We give them. It's not. We're not hitting up our taxpayers. So they're paying less in parkland dedication fee. All right, we don't have the land to buy it up there anyway. I feel it's it's a reasonable compromise to make, and, you know, I favor doers, which I feel that's what EJ Plesko is. They're doers that are doing projects to improve our city. That's all I've got to say.
Randy?
Yeah, I've heard it suggested a few times that, you know, this is a good project, and maybe if we don't vote for this, this is, or at least it gives you the illusion that it's not a good project. This is definitely a good project, and I voted for it originally, and I still hold true to that. The park is needed. It's just the credits. I understand there's a formula. I'm just taking it to a very simple common sense. How do you receive a credit when you didn't pay in to begin with? That's all. I'm just going to leave it there. Jay has said a majority of what I've been thinking anyway, so thank you for that.
All right, Julia, go ahead.
So, no, I want to echo what David said, that we should focus on the resolution that we have in front of us and maybe recommend staff, you know, to everyone agree that we need to have an ordinance in place and to talk more about why it's so important if we want to transfer some credit in the future, but I think we need to have an ordinance in place where, where we can consider the transfer of credit in redevelopment areas or redevelopment projects, because it's another way that we can, also control the cost and bring more affordability on housing in the city in some areas. I think we need to have that discussion, but I think we need to vote what is in front of us right now, and it's the resolution. The resolution doesn't mention about the transfer of credit, so.
And I can say I agree that we need to make sure our ordinances reflect what we're actually doing. And so I have talked to Chad already, and we are going to bring forward an update to the ordinance to kind of reflect probably what we do, however we decide things go tonight. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't change it when it comes forward and have more discussion. But I agree with, people who have said we need to update the ordinance, and we will bring that forward. Valerie, it looks like you've got a comment. Go ahead.
I do. So just as a matter of process, I just wanted to clarify how I think just suggest an option how to handle this. So in the event that the council or an alder is inclined to make an amendment to what's before the council currently, and that is no transfer of any credits, I think that an alder could make a motion to amend the resolution to add some language along the lines of an additional now therefore be it hereby resolved clause that would say, in the event the council adopts a park credit transfer ordinance, that the developer could apply to transfer those credits pursuant to such an ordinance and could request to amend the subdivision improvement agreement at that time. So I can provide that language to the clerk as well, but I just wanted to procedurally clarify how that could be handled. So that would be a motion and a second and a vote to amend that resolution, and then subsequently you could vote on that resolution, if that makes sense.
So let me try and say it back to you if I'm understanding correctly, that we approve what's here with the additional clause that you're mentioning, which would be if we update our ordinance, which we'll bring that forward, and in the ordinance we do allow a transfer of credit in the future, then the developer can essentially apply to get those credits retroactively.
Right, provided that that their situation is consistent with what the council ultimately approves.
Correct. Okay. All right. Julia, question?
Can I ask a question? If we are talking about park dedication fee and transfer of credit, shouldn't the park committee be also discuss this topic too?
If we do the ordinance, then that would go to them as well. Yeah, when we update the ordinance, it will definitely go to them. And at that point in time, they can provide feedback. Right. And that's where if we, decide to do something where we do allow that transfer, then the developer can kind of apply for that credit at that point in time. But the park committee would have input into those ordinance changes for sure.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, Shannon?
So if they apply for it, does it mean they automatically get it, or?
If it meets the ordinance. So if the ordinance we pass allows that, then yes.
Okay.
Yep. Would someone like to make a motion to do the clause that Valerie suggested? Or we can just vote on this too. That's okay too.
So,
Yeah, Gabriella?
I'm sorry, I'm so confused.
All right,
Sorry.
So the current motion is that there would not be an allowed transfer of credits. Now Valerie is saying that you could add in a clause that if in the future we pass an ordinance that allows that a developer, for instance, Plesco in this case, could then say, hey, you actually in ordinance allow this now. We would like credit for these units that they're asking for right now. So then they would get a refund from the city at that point in time.
Okay. I guess I thought that was what this was. I guess that's where I'm confused.
No.
That's just the memo was laying that out as an option.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would like there to be the flexibility in the future. I think we should talk about an ordinance on its own. So yeah, I would like to add that. I move to amend to add that language.
Okay, so a motion to add in the language that Valerie suggested. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Dave. Further discussion on the amendment at all?
Roll call requested.
Yeah, we'll do a roll call for sure. Is there any other discussion before we?
Yeah,
vote on?
Valerie, can you repeat again what we're trying to do here?
Absolutely. So we would be adding an additional, now therefore be it hereby resolved, that in the event the council, or you could say, in the event the city adopts a park credit transfer ordinance, that the developer can apply to transfer credits pursuant to such an ordinance and can request to amend the subdivision improvement agreement at that time.
Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, my question is that, but the language means that we are creating, staff is gonna work in an ordinance where it's gonna have the language that we can transfer credit. And eventually council will vote yes or no.
That's exactly right. There isn't really anything for you to vote on yet. I think there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. Questions such as, how we're going to keep track of those credits, how long we have to use them, things of that nature. And so I think the council ultimately is going to need to adopt an ordinance. I guess I would also add, and I think I heard the mayor say that I think regardless of what we do tonight, I would anticipate that staff would be bringing forth some amendment to our ordinance to address the situation one way or the other, but at least to have guidance that is clear for developers moving forward. So correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but it sounds like that's kind of the direction that we're heading. And I think that makes sense. Whether, you support transfer of these non-credit credits, in other words, credits for apartments that predated the park dedication or even if you don't support it, I think it would just make sense to have some language in our ordinance that would explain which way to go. And so I guess from a staff perspective and the legal perspective, I would encourage the council to consider an ordinance, whatever the substance may be in terms of, you can choose what you vote on, but I think it would make a lot of sense to make this more explicit and more clear.
All right, Julia, go ahead.
Yes, my question is, when is the timeline for this ordinance to be done? We were talking about months, weeks, months.
There's a lot going on. It's hard to give it an exact date, I would say. We're going to work on it. It's an important thing to do, and it's not going to be years or anything like that. But I don't want to pin staff down on a month or a week. This year for sure, yeah.
Oh, this year, okay.
Yeah.
Staff would put this as one of our priorities to work on amongst many others, but we certainly would put this in the upper tier of priority for staff time. Assuming that's what council would like us to do, of course.
I think that the answer is yes to that based on what I've heard.
I didn't want to be presumptuous.
All right. So we have the amendment first to vote on. Tracy, could you do a roll call? So this is adding that flexibility once we update an ordinance. All right, go ahead, Tracy.
Alder Allen?
No.
Alder Radafrada?
Aye.
Alder Gerhardt?
Aye.
Alder Herbst?
Aye.
Alder Maldonado?
Aye.
Alder Strassman?
Aye.
Alder Udell?
Aye.
Alder Wheeler?
Aye.
7-1, motion carried.
All right, so now we have the amended motion, which at this point says no to transfer of park credits, but leaves open that possibility if the ordinance in the future allows that. Anything further before we go to a vote? All right, why don't we do a roll call again, Tracy, just to be sure? Thank you.
Alder, you bet. Alder Allen,
Aye.
Alder Rada,
Aye.
Alder Gerhart,
Aye.
Alder Hertz,
Aye.
Alder Maldonado,
Aye.
Alder Strassman,
Aye.
Alder Udell,
Aye.
Alder Wheeler,
Aye.
motion carried.
All right, thank you. All right, we got one more, Dave.
Move approval, Resolution R 8022, approving bids for construction of public improvements to Ochala CSM.
Second.
It was approved by Board of Public Works.
All right. And what's this about? Oh, did finance approve?
Finance approved.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
So right now, Ochala is a cul-de-sac off of Fish Hatchery Road. We went out for bids for the cost to essentially extend that road down to Index Drive to allow this project to move forward. The road, it's a normal road. It's got bicycle lanes and a path. There are other standard things that went in with the road. I believe it did come in below the engineer's estimate, and this will be through the TID. This will be a cost that the city will they'll be reimbursed, or the developer will be reimbursed by the city as part of the TID on this project.
All right.
It's a relatively short extension.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay? All right, that is approved. Anything else before we move on? All right, Park Commission.
I move approval of resolution R-31-22, approving the 2022 spring tree planting plan.
Second.
Sent by Gabriella. Did Park Commission approve?
Yes.
Did Tree Advisory?
Yes, indeed.
Did Finance approve?
Finance approved.
All right, what is this one, Julia?
So this one is, the Forestry Division has identified the need to plant 159 trees. This is a common practice that we do every year. And the location includes city terraces and park, along with planting for new development. So the total amount is like $39,000 for 159 trees.
Gabrielle?
Just a couple of things to add to that from Anna Healy. She has worked with SRB trees before, the vendor that selected, and has had a very good experience, so she's excited about it. There also was some of the higher bids were also great vendors, so we're getting good bids, which is a good sign. And then also we were under budget for it in the end, which is great.
Do you know how old the trees are that we're planting?
I don't know. I think it's kind of the standard skinny trees.
5, 6. It's like an inch and a half.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5 roughly. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay? All right, that is approved. Hi, Scott. Bye, Scott. Anything else for Park Commission, Julia?
Bye, Mayor.
No, I don't know, Scott, do you have anything?
Do I have anything?
No, we are meeting next week.
Yep,
All right.
Thursday.
Sounds good. How about Library Board?
We had a meeting last week. There were a couple of things that happened. We bid farewell to our longtime library board chair, Stephen Arnold, who served in that position for 8 years, so away he goes. We talked a little bit about the new material handling system that the library's getting, and we also there was some considerable discussion about the failing chiller over there, and that was included in the ARPA funding package, which we overspent by about $2 million. So, but it was asked that I emphasize the need for getting this done, despite the fact that we approved way more spending than what we have.
All right, thank you. Commission on Aging, Mel?
At our last meeting, our 3 social workers each provided a case study of someone they had helped. And these were very dire, situations that they helped these city residents out, and really gave us an appreciation, for what these employees are doing on a day-to-day basis. Jill reported, we have a number of new senior housing, Lacey, Roundabout, Novation, Terra Vesa. There's a lot more senior things coming. You see tomorrow on the Committee of the Whole, Jill will be talking. And they're having a fundraiser to offset some of the cost of the patio project. And they have Hispanic bingo coming up in May. And I think the last thing, they're having the outreach, senior center outreach to the town of Madison. I'm sure, I think that was a May date on that also. That's all I had.
All right, question?
Yeah, for Dave, was there written documents for those case studies from the social workers, or was it mostly the verbal presentation?
Verbal presentation, but I have notes. I'd be glad to go over them and get.
Yeah, I'd love to. And I might watch the meeting too, but it's fine.
I'd be glad to provide them to you.
Great, thanks.
All right. How about RCC?
We have not had a meeting since the last council meeting, but we did have the spring waterway cleanup on this past Saturday, on the most beautiful day of the year thus far. And it went really well. I think it was like lower attendance than we might have imagined just because of how beautiful the weather was. But it was interesting because I was at the same place last year and this year, and it was in a lot better shape. And I think it's because we had a great cleanup last year. We had a huge turnout because of the pandemic. People had a lot of extra time on their hands. So it's nice to see that there's kind of an ongoing improvement. And then also there is going to be we're planning a new event about invasive species plants. It's going to be in McGaw Park on June 2nd. And so I'll send out more information once we have the details firmed up. But it should be kind of focused for homeowners and residents that want to learn a little bit more about how they can manage it and help with that throughout the city and on their personal property.
All right. What about TTC?
TTC, at our last meeting, we reviewed a draft of the transit plan, and we had a good discussion on it, and that should be coming before council in the near future. And then we also talked about the metro redesign, which we'll talk about in depth tomorrow at Committee of the Whole, but we did ask Metro to put together some official amendments for potential changes. And I think Andrew will go through the potential changes tomorrow, but they are very much based on the feedback from the City of Fitchburg Metro feedback hearings, and some of one of the residents I know we've recently heard from. One of the amendments deals with that part of town, and so with that official amendment, we'll be able to find out the exact cost of changing it and the feasibility of it with the entire network as a whole. So those sort of smaller micro decisions are still up for discussion, and I believe Andrew will go into that in a lot more detail tomorrow at Committee of the Whole. And then Andrew also gave his department report. I think as Chad already said, the County MM and McCoy project is about to get started. There's going to be 5 stages, and there's going to be no left turn for a significant part of that time. The West Lacey Road design is nearing completion, but there is a possibility that the construction will have to be pushed to 2023. So that is definitely a possibility you should be aware of. And then Cyene Road from Aurora to East Sherrill, that's the 90% plans are submitted, and the construction is planned for late 2022 into spring 2023. And that's all.
All right, thank you. CETA. Jim, you going to do CETA?
We'll have a meeting this Thursday coming up.
All right. Ag and Rural Affairs.
No update.
All right, EMS.
So everything's pretty much on track for EMS. They're going to be starting to initiate negotiations for the collective bargaining agreement. So stuff may be coming up, but just wanted to put that out there.
All right. What about Bike Committee?
No meeting since last council meeting, so no updates.
All right. What about Tree Advisory?
Yes, we met on April 14th. There's going to be a whole bunch of Arbor Day events this coming weekend. Lots of tree plantings all over in local neighborhoods. So definitely check with your local neighborhood to see if there's one happening in your area. And then we looked at kind of a more final draft of the tree protection ordinance, so that is moving along. I think they're gonna meet with the mayor soon and have it go through legal and probably plan commission to kind of vet it before it comes back to council. But that will likely happen certainly before the end of the year, but in the near future. And then we did hire a forestry assistant for the summer, and amazing person that's going to be a great help to Anna. It's going to be great for the city, which is really, and we had a whole bunch of applications, so that's exciting that people want to work with the city of Fitchburg. And I know it's not easy to hire these days, so that's especially good. And then, and then a really fun announcement. Anna Healy took a master arborist certification, and she passed the test, and she got certified as a master arborist. And apparently there's only like a little over 1,000 people in the world that have this certification. Very, very prestigious. And we have, our forester in the city has that. So I'm really proud of her, and I think we should all, I send my congrats, and I'm sure I speak for the whole council when I say that. Great job, Anna.
All right. What about landmarks preservation?
We haven't met.
All right. What about housing advisory?
No meeting since our last council meeting. No.
All right. What about H&I?
We haven't had a meeting since our last meeting, but we do have one next week on Tuesday.
All right. Excellent. All right. Standing committees, finance, anything additional, Randy?
Nothing additional, no, thank you.
All right. Personnel. Nothing.
We are meeting in June.
All right. And anything on public safety, Dave?
We approved 3 new operators license, a lot of new activities coming up. I just want to point out one. If you can, the Memorial Day service at Veterans Memorial is going to be from 11:30 to 1:30 on Memorial Day, and I would encourage everyone to attend. It's a great way to spend a couple hours.
All right. Mayor's report. Just a few things. I went to the annual meeting of the Fitchburg Historical Society yesterday, which was interesting as always, and we got a tour of the new pro-mega building up the road, the Kornberg Center. If there is interest in taking a tour from the council, I can actually schedule that. They said they'd be happy to do that. So let me know if, as soon as possible if you're interested in some days and times that might work best. I'm guessing some of you work, and so maybe like 4 or 5 o'clock was probably better. But let me know if you have interest in, times that might work better for you as soon as possible, please, and I will get that organized. And then also went Friday night to the Saris Gala. They raised over $80,000 for their foundation, so that was a great event as well. About 450 people attended that. And then last Thursday, we had open house ribbon cutting for Forum Health, who has actually been in Fitchburg for a while, but they Forum Health bought the practice during COVID, and now that COVID is a little bit better anyway, we're getting back to doing ribbon cuttings and things like that, so it was great to have an event like that. So that is all I have for now. For district reports, we start with District 4, actually. Jim.
Nothing to report.
All right, Randy?
Nothing to report.
All right, Joe?
There are 2 bike-related events. They're right outside of the district. They're at Luna's Groceries. Friday, 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. There will be a bike repair stand as well as bike rodeos in the parking lot. So I encourage folks that live in the area to attend.
All right, thank you. Dave?
I just want to pass on to Administrator Brecklin. Thanks for the help with garbage on King James Way. It's noticeably better. We're having our community garden. We had our first meeting, and we also have a small group that's going to be working on prairie restoration. And Joe, do you know, are we having the Allied Duns Marsh? Are we having the community meal on Friday night? I couldn't get into the meeting.
I believe so. I wasn't able to get into the meeting too, but I believe so.
That was the other thing. I think at 5:30 at Boys and Girls Club, we're always looking for volunteers on Friday night.
Oh, yeah, it is happening.
Okay.
It is.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, Julia?
No report.
All right, Gabriel?
No report from me either.
All right, Jay?
Chad mentioned this earlier, but I want to reemphasize Thursday night at 6:30, the the Town of Madison meeting that's going to be at the Courts Benefits Building on Novation Parkway. I've already had a number of inquiries from residents. I've met with a few residents of the town over the last 2 weeks. People are having, there's some trepidation, there's some concern about how this is all going to fall out, and I've tried to alleviate some concerns, but there's still, it's uncertainty. And one thing I wanted to mention that we need to have at that meeting. We had talked, and I couldn't find it. I looked through. We had talked previously about the staff positions that we are adding in 2023 as a result of the Town of Madison annexation. We need to have that list available at that meeting because people are asking those questions. And I could remember a few. I know there's a list somewhere, but I looked and looked and couldn't find it. If you could email that out to us again, that would be great. Mainly what I've been hearing is from the town residents. They don't know what's going to happen. They really feel like they're kind of in a little volleyball zone where they just don't know. They don't know how it's going to play out. And in some ways, we don't know how it's going to play out yet because there's a lot of things. But there was concern brought up about the parks. There's concern about the condition of some of the residential streets that are going to need some work. So I think having some answers to those questions at that meeting will be helpful.
All right. Yeah, sure.
Just as a heads up for the council members, if you are planning on attending, the format that we have planned for the meeting is obviously a welcome, an introduction by Mayor Richardson. There's also a representative from the City of Madison Mayor's Office who will be provided a few minutes to talk for anyone in regards to the Madison portion of the attachment. And then we've asked the vast majority of our departments to be present to give a couple of minute high-level overview of the services offered by their particular departments. And then obviously a representative from each department will present that information so that they can get a name and a face. Then we'll transition to an open question and answer session in which we can take the questions that are presented by attendees. And then we'll also reserve time afterwards where staff are going to be stationed throughout the meeting room. So if anybody has any questions they'd like to pose individually with a particular department, they can do that. Or if there are any questions that are posed during that general open portion of the program that get a little bit deep in the weeds or technical in nature, we can also direct them off to talk to particular staff during that portion of the meeting as well. So we'll look to get a list put together for the council members, and then perhaps Jay has a suggestion if you're there, maybe even just a softball question, during that general question and answer session might be a good opportunity to kind of talk about what council has done from a funding perspective and staffing for this budget year.
Yeah, I think that's a good format. The other question, there was questions about the park, a number of questions I got about the park because of the dangerous condition of the equipment there. So I think the Parks Department should at least explain the process about how we go about planning a new park. The neighborhood over there, many members of the neighborhood have gone through considerable time on their own to figure out what they want the park to look like. So I think some discussion with Scott about how we go about planning a park and all that stuff. The other question that came up a couple of times was a couple of residents want to know the current status of the Alexander TID. And so I don't know where, I didn't have an answer for that. I didn't have a chance to contact our finance department either. So having some information about that, because I believe that TID has to be closed by the time of the transition, doesn't it?
No, actually it doesn't. No, it can actually, yeah.
It comes into Fitchburg, and it'll become one of our TIDs. And right now, our plan from the city staff perspective will be to recommend closure of that TID relatively soon after the absorption. I don't know if that will be within the first year of the absorption of the town, but it could possibly be. So once we get a chance to get a good look at the numbers and.
Well, there will be questions about that.
Yep, thank you. Thank you.
All right, Shannon.
I have nothing.
All right, we can go to direct referrals. There's first one's finance. Randy, do you want to do that motion?
Yes. Motion to approve Resolution R-79-22, approval for reimbursement of 2 fire department water tenders.
Second.
Submitted by Jay. Did finance approve?
Finance approved.
All right. Hey, Joe, it's our chief Paulmacher. Do you want to give a quick rundown? I know we just talked about this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's real quick. And although a direct referral, you saw all of this information at the last meeting. This is a housekeeping issue. The exact opposite thing happened to us with this purchase than with our radio purchase. With the radios, the manufacturer wanted to be paid directly. And then with this purchase, the manufacturer wants the vendor to be paid. So we needed to correct the resolution to reflect who is actually being paid. Everything else remains the same.
All right. Any questions at all? All right. Then all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right. That's approved. Thanks, Chief. All right. And looks like this is a Public Works one, Dave.
I'll move approval of Resolution R-8222, preliminary assessment resolution for the McCoy sanitary sewer extension improvements.
Second.
Submitted by Randy on that one. And did Public Works approve?
Public Works approved.
Finance approve.
Finance approved, yes.
All right. What's this one about, Dave?
So we extended that sanitary sewer along McCoy, and this directed the city engineer to prepare an assessment report for the billings to the residents for that. So we're giving him direction to prepare this assessment resolution, and eventually we'll have our approval for a assessment report. But this is the first step in the process.
All right. Pretty standard.
Yes, it's very standard.
All right. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right. Committee of Whole tomorrow night. Got a few things on the agenda, I think. Randy, do you want to run them down real quick?
Yeah, we have a transit update, update on the hub, and then the process and timing requirements.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Jay.
Second.
Seconded by Randy. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.